So there's one topic that I think many people forget about when they're training an off-track thoroughbred, and that is cross tying. Usually when we get a horse later in life, we assume that that horse already knows how to cross tie. Most thoroughbreds are not put in cross ties at the track. They're usually straight tied or they're held by a handler. So cross ties can be pretty scary for them, especially when you put them into a long aisle environment like this, where there's nothing behind them, there's something far ahead of them, there's no real safety. So today I'm going to focus on showing you what I do to try and get a horse used to cross ties. I will show you some things too that will always make it safer. One being always attach baling twine to the end of the cross tie, so that if they do pull back, you have a quick release. Use quick release cross ties. Don't use chains. Use something that makes sense, that you know you can get off easily, or if the horse does get freaked out enough that they're able to actually break and get away. I mean, we don't want to teach a horse to break cross ties, but I would rather a horse breaks cross ties than their necks. So actually, I haven't cross tied Golden Dove at all, so tonight we probably won't get to the point of actually putting her in cross ties in the aisle, but we'll get to that starting point. So what I will always start with first is, I always start cross tie training by first teaching my horse to ground tie. So let me get her out and we'll go from there. As you may have seen from some of my other videos, I've already started teaching Dove about ground tying. I think it's a great tool to have no matter what. Just teaches your horse to stay calm and quiet without you being in the way, and it'll also set you up great for cross tie training. Figure of this: if my horse can stand quietly ground tied, putting something on the sides of her is only going to help, just going to reinforce the movement. There are other steps too to pressure training, like if my horse, if I pull on her halter and she freaks out about it, right? She gives and she backs up. If I pull forward, she comes forward. I want those pieces to be there first too, because imagine if the halter, if she starts to go backward, seriously kitty cat, Peanut, sit down, thank you. If she starts to go backward in the cross ties, let's imagine this, and she hits a spot and it's pulling forward, notice how as soon as it hit forward, she started to go forward. Instead of being a horse that when I pull forward, she would go backward. So that's one sign to see if your horse might be ready for it. Other thing too is by ground tying, I get to see how a horse behaves when they get, quote, stuck. If she steps on her lead line, I'm not going to intentionally do it, but she has done it before where she stepped on her lead line, she doesn't freak out, she doesn't go crazy, she just stops and waits to either move herself off of it or until I pick a foot up for her. So I know that she's going to react to pressure on her halter in an appropriate way. So she's not going to feel stuck. Forward pressure, she comes forward, she doesn't go backward into it. Backward, we should go backward. So those are some things to check first. Now, ground tying. Like I said, I teach them ground tying by a lot of voice command and some treats, but mostly just I want to give them a negative reinforcement if they start to move away by giving them negative voice. If she moves from there, I'm going to have to tell her not to. But she should be able to ground tie at this point. This is where I want her, so that when I get to cross tying her, I know that I have some semblance of her being able to stand quietly, and all that now is adding is a clip on the side of her halter. I should be able to walk around her. I should be able to pick her feet, all with her ground tied. I can pick her back feet with her ground tied. Easy go. Good girl. Good girl. And I should be able to do all of that. So I can do all of that ground tied in an open environment in an aisleway where there's a lot going on. You saw the cats jumping around. There's horses with their heads sticking out of the feeder windows on the aisle. So this is all important pieces, is I make sure that I can have a ground tied horse in the aisle that I can move around and work around before I'm going to worry about putting her on cross ties. Next step will be getting her ready to practice cross tying in her stall. So the first thing I'm going to do, I always like to double enforce with baling twine. Baling twine is my best friend. Baling twine will go onto her halter. I'm going to make little baling twine loops here. This way I have less risk of damaging my halter in the process or damaging her neck if for some reason she feels stuck. Now, I will tie these onto both sides of the halter, and then I'll pick up inside the stall where we're going to show you what we're doing there. So we're in the stall now, and I'm going to show you what I do in the stall. So I actually set up, you can see here, I just tie baling twine onto something in the stall, anywhere, and fairly low. I don't want to have really high yet, so I just tend to hang something low, and again, I use baling twine, and I'm attaching lead ropes. And by attach, I'm saying that very loosely. They're just hung through right now. I'm going to do that in both sides because I just want to see how she reacts to it. We're going to do one on the other side as well, and then we're going to clip her into them. So we'll sit this down here, and there she is. Good girl. Again, I have, here, little girl. I have baling twine tied onto her halter so that I have something there that's on both sides. So I'm going to clip her into that. So I'm actually going to clip this one onto the baling twine on this side. Here, little girl. Now I'm just clipped into the baling twine rather than clipped onto the halter. And part of the reason I'm doing this in a stall is because it's safer for her. She's got 3 walls, it's comfortable for her, and I'm just going to try it out here. It also means I have less issue to get anything, potentially run down an aisle or run backward or pull. So I'm going to put these through, and I'm not even tying them, I'm just hanging them through the loops. But it'll give her some pressure. So she's going to feel pressure without it being completely restricted. I can easily adjust the length of them then as well. So we're going to start here. She's close, she's behind her wall, so she can lean into them. I can duck under them. And we can see what happens. If I pull on the lead rope on one side, she comes that direction. Now if I tighten those up, we might notice something different. So if I ask her to back up, there's not a lot of room in here for her to back up. But at the end of the day, this would be my next step. And I would do that, we're doing it in our stall because we don't have a wash stall here in this barn. So I don't really have a 3-sided thing. Everything is in the aisleway. So I'm practicing just trying it in the stall. I recommend it for you to do it in a wash stall if you have it, or anywhere that you have 3 sides. And while she's staying here quietly, I'm going to give her a treat since she's actually into these now. You want a treat? There you go. So this is all I'm doing for this. Do the same, you can do the exact same setup in a wash stall. And again, because I have the end of the lead rope just through that baling twine, I actually can pull on it, but also if she goes to pull, I'm going to show you, if she were to pull away, the lead rope is completely loose now. Same on this side. She's pulling, it's completely loose, okay? Now there's not enough room in here for her to really get to the point that she would be away from that, but let's say she decided to dart out. I do have the door open to the stall. Say she decided to dart out of the stall and try to run out. Well, she's going to be running with 2 lead ropes tied behind her, but at least she's not snapping a neck. So again, it's all safety, attached to baling twine, everything's baling twine. Since I know she has a good brain, we're going to actually go out to the aisle and start to work there. So I'll show you what we do in the aisleway. Okay, now for the final step. So we've got the baling twine still attached to the sides of her halter. I'm going to use that. She's ground tied right now, but I already have baling twine on the ends. I'll show you that. A picture of it too, but I actually have baling twine. We got Davine here. Hello, little girl, what are you doing? You gonna help watch? But you can see up here, I've actually got baling twine on the ends of the cross ties, and that is on both sides. So you'll see on this side as well. And the point of that is just so that, again, if she breaks, these are also quick release, so if she was really stuck, I can pull down on those and I get a quick release, which is exactly what I highly recommend that you have. Rather than big bull snaps. Okay, so. Oh, where are you going, Dove? No, we're not eating hay. Okay, so we're in the aisle ground tied here. I have a lead rope on her, and let me just adjust this a little. And there's hay in the aisle, so of course we're gonna decide that that's more exciting. Okay, so first things first. I am gonna clip her on one side of the cross ties, and I'm just going to clip it onto, again, remember, the baling twine. So there's baling twine on this side, there's baling twine on the cross tie. I'm going to take this lead rope and clip it on to the other piece of baling twine. And then, actually, you know what? No, I lied. This one, I wouldn't normally do that. I'm going to actually clip it onto the side ring of her halter. The reason being I'm not going to secure this end of it, so I don't want her, if she runs, I still have something to grab. And then this is actually, There, so she's going to hit that on that side. This one, I'm going to just run up through anywhere that I can on the cross ties. Normally I'd have a bigger hook at the top, but in this case, I'm going to just hang it like this. So again, we're just hanging. It's loose. If she were to hit the cross ties and go to run, this can keep coming out. See all that? There's plenty. It just came out loosely. She'd only be on one side then. As she pulls, it would either feel more like a straight tie, or it'll also snap because there's baling twine on it. Since she's very sensible, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip the lead rope onto the bottom like I normally would for leading, and we're going to go straight to straight to cross tying. I'm going to also take the lead rope, drape it over her neck. I'm not going to take it off of her, because I want to know that if she does go crazy, I have something that I can grab hold of. I'm going to just take it around and loop it through easily so that I know it's not going to come over her head and potentially get stuck in a leg and freak her out that way. And then I am going to clip her, but this time I am going to clip her onto the actual baling twine. Now, with her, she's very sensible, so again, I'm going to give her a treat. She's standing quietly, and I'm going to move around her. Same way that I was earlier when she was ground tied. Now remember, if you're doing this for the first time with a horse that you don't know very well, going behind them, easy, easy, good girl. You don't want to get behind them because if they get freaked and they come running backward, it is different for them in the cross ties than it is when they're ground tied or straight tied. So, or in general, it's a whole new sensation. So if they get panicked, they might come backward with you behind them. So again, I'm still going to do the same piece as I would before. I'm going to keep my hand close. I'm going to stay close to her. I'm going to switch sides. But I'm going to be aware of the fact that everything is new to her now. So we're starting to move around and test that out. If I come forward, see what happens. She tries to walk forward and hits it. I want to see what happens when she engages the cross tie. She stops, which is good. She's a really thoughtful mare, which is what's great about her. Again, if she were to get crazy or something spooked her, she's connected by baling twine. So that's the most important part to all this is safety, 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 go slow. And you're going to beg for treats now? But I want to make sure that if she moves, when she hits the cross tie, that she knows not to go any farther. So I'm going to try and walk forward again, and give her room and see what happens. Ultimately, I don't want her dancing in the cross ties. So where she is right now is great. She's back a little bit on them, but she's not freaking out about it. I wouldn't take this horse and start putting her on cross ties on a regular basis or leave and let her here. I'd always do it while she's attended. You're such a treat monster. For a while. I mean, I don't even know that I ever would. I would never, I'm not someone who would ever leave a horse unattended in cross ties. Ever. Period. End of story. I would never leave a horse unattended outside of a stall. Ever. And I don't think anyone really should. I don't care how well behaved your horse is, they shouldn't be, and that's my rant for the day. They shouldn't be in cross ties when you're not around to watch them or someone is there to physically watch them, not just listen for them. Additionally, straight tied, I don't care what it is, being tied to a trail or even for the side of the day, you should really be able to be there and be watching them. But that's just a pet peeve of mine. I think too many people trust their horses a little too much. They get scared, so they're going to do it. The other thing is even during this whole time for the next couple weeks, I'm always going to tie her with baling twine, at least on the ends of the cross ties. That will be forever and always, but for the next couple weeks, I probably will also do it on her halter, just until I know that she's standing quietly like this. But so that would be my recommendations would be, first, start with ground tying, then start in an enclosed space with just lead ropes on each side, something that that's not really secured, that you can kind of see how they're going to react to pressure. Thirdly, bring them into the aisle. Do one cross tie on one side and a lead rope on the other side. Again, baling twine on the halter, on the lead on the cross tie side, baling twine on both sides on the cross ties. Then last would be getting the baling twine on both ends of the cross ties, baling twine on the halter, and 2 cross ties, without the lead rope still attached to the neck, so you have something there. That's just my way of doing it. There's lots of ways to do it, but hopefully that was helpful for some people who are maybe trying to teach their horse to cross tie. Good girl.